Hello and welcome to Coffee and Contemplation. Today I'm going to be taking some time to review certain aspects of my own gameplay, particularly Fortnite solo battle royale ranked matchmaking, as well as what my strategic goals are for StarCraft 2. And then in addition to that, I'm going to be reviewing some gameplay from Maru's 6th GSL Championship game. I think that he exhibited strategic mastery in that series, and the moment I'm going to highlight was the winning moment, but I actually think the entire series is worthwhile to watch. But first, coffee. Yeah, that's nice. Okay. So first we're just going to start out with reviewing a game from recently. It says 11 hours ago, but I don't think that's up to date. My goals from the battle bus are to find a centralized location on the map rich in metal, particularly. It's the most difficult resource to get, and it's actually pretty hard to find, so we can speed this up. I really like this area after some exploration. I've noticed you can get brick and wood basically whenever you want, so prioritizing metal strategically seems valid. Oh, okay. So early on I realized I was contested here. I had an option to play defensive, shield keg up. That's actually probably the better decision here. I have a lot of loot to my back, so pushing this player, it's debatable. I think because I had superior timing on the drop, as well as gray SMG advantage, it's fine to push, but I think it would also be better to just land at my drop spot, especially with the shield keg, heal up to full, get materials, try and find a shotgun, and then if he pushes me, take the fight. But anyways, well, actually, there's not too much to watch with this fight. It's pretty straightforward. I was going to slow it down. Bear with me while I figure out the technical aspects of this. Yeah, essentially, he had opened a chest, had slap juice and a blue pistol. Slap juice and a blue pistol, if he had the materials, could beat no mat gray SMG. I think I shouldn't have taken that fight, especially because in the new ranked mode there's no siphon. It's fine in the end in this scenario because I managed to win the fight. But I don't think my skill set is a 50-50 with no materials and low HP, so it's bad practice to implement. At the same time, I need to know when to actually go in for the kill. It's difficult to navigate these things because the main objective in a solo battle royale is to survive until there's 3 players left. So 99 players you have to compete with to survive in a solo battle royale game. And then the easiest way to win is remain invisible until there's 3 players left. Once there's 3 players left, at the moment of combat, attack the winning player in the 1v1 while you remain invisible. And then you can target down the strong player and finish off the weakened player. That's the ideal scenario. It's hard to execute. Remaining invisible is difficult, but actually sitting in cones, finding bushes to sit in, and finding strategic buildings to replenish your mats at the same time as building a strategic position, I think is actually all worthwhile and good. Right now, I'm taking too much time. I shouldn't be looting these loot boxes or anything. I don't have a shotgun. That's the #1 priority right now. Otherwise, like, get a shotgun, go back farm metal. Lucky to find a god chest here. Pretty uncommon. Sometimes you don't even get a chest. Upgrade from gray to purple. Can't complain. We'll speed it up again. Yeah, max brick. Pretty comfortable. It doesn't seem like there's really any players nearby. I still don't have a shotgun, but Keymaster makes it so that I have an option to get a gold Maven, so lucky here. Alternatively, I should have if I didn't get Keymaster, rotate to the quarry south of my position, farm up some chests, although that would take time, and even that is just a raw probability factor of whether or not I'd end up with a shotgun. Lucky to get Keymaster. Might as well branch out and start farming metal. I don't want to be exposed now that snipers are in the game. I actually recently recorded a game where I was checking my surround, watched my 6 like 3 times, farmed a tree, and then after the farming of the tree, I took a sniper bullet to the head. So this season I'm just gonna, I mean even right now I'm making a mistake, not abiding to what I'm talking about. I think that because snipers are in the game, if you're farming from a building and trying to play strategic, you should spend the least amount of time exposed. But at the same time, nobody's near me. It's fine to just quickly get brickwood and then start to play defensive. I don't really need to do anything. I have good heals, good ammo, good weapons. And also, until I'm able to improve on the production side of things, if the quality of the video bothers you, in the description of the video I'll have all the links to the corresponding videos of practice that I'll be reviewing, as well as when we review Morrow's tournament gameplay. And then you can, I guess you can't really sync it up with me, but you could review it on your own. You can't sync it up with me because I'm doing so many modifications to the VOD speed, and I'll be pausing and backing up and stuff like that. But I don't know, this is good enough for my own reflection purposes, as well as an opportunity to share. Good experiment to participate in. So all I'm doing right now is maxing my metal, positioned fairly center zone, a little bit south center. I have a 1-layer base which is weak to ODM. Besides that, it's strong. Oh, I guess it is a 2-layer base with the bridge over the key place. Yeah, this is what I want to be doing the majority of the game. Just nothing, relaxing, having the opportunity to drink coffee in a cone. And based on the current metagame in the domain of Fortnite exclusively, aggression is the norm. I actually think I line up a snipe here in a little bit. The snipe is fine. He jumps, and because I didn't account for the jump, the bullet goes between his legs. But besides that, this is just kind of a relaxing scenario. I'll slow it down for the snipe. See if we can see it. Go 0.5. So I can see him in the crossing of the trees. I have a kill opportunity. I just need to hit the snipe. I line it up for the head, and it's just my mistake. He looks at me, sees that I have an edit open, and jumps. Good on him. Makes the dodge. He shoots the wall that I placed. I spend 60 to 80 mats expanding out, watching him. I'm gonna go reform. Yeah. It's good to stay maxed out. I don't know what that guy's gonna do. And likely, when you make an aggressive maneuver like a snipe, it can actually agitate the enemy to the point where they just decide to push you. So, unless I'm gonna hit that shot, it's probably not worth taking. And even if I do hit the shot, it has to be in the head. So I should snipe when the enemy has his back turned, is the main point. Right here, there's an encounter in between me and Christmas House, and it's just a 1v1. If I was up in a cone and paying more attention, I could have third-partied sooner. As it stands, my third party ends up in 42 damage. ODM pressure, I can slow it down, rewind, because it's actually pretty crucial to pay attention how to optimize this and find weaknesses in this damn overpowered item. Okay, so I think first slash of ODM is in a 2x2. That's actually dangerous. If he was in the box in front of me, I'd have been wide open. Okay. So if I'm on a 2-layer base, I can exhaust at least that player's ODM layer usage. And then he changes targets from me or gets shot in the back. Whatever. There ends up being 2 people fighting on my wall. So I didn't have the reaction time to get the kill myself, but what I can do now is make a play for what he just dropped. So what I do is I place the wall in the next box ahead. I should try and just get every piece in this box as fast as possible, and then be ready to retreat and only hit the enemy with a pre-fire. Be ready to give up the loot if the enemy is just fully committing to me. But I'm open to taking this one piece at a time, securing the loot that I can loot, because I'm down like 300 metal right now based on defensive ODM and backing up to tarp. Anyways, let's see what happens. So if I was paying more attention, I could pre-fire that, but he did pull his shotgun out, so it's risky. I should be taking this cone a lot sooner. I don't even place it. Okay, we can go back to normal speed probably. Take back the cone. And so I'm high resources, good heals. I'm bad position in zone. Right now, I should just get into a cone, look around, and try and rotate to center zone. But instead, because they're still basically on my property, I'm trying to see what happens. Doesn't seem safe to rotate anyway. But yeah, my objective should be to get the hell out. There's no way, based on my current position, that I'll make it one zone by luck or two zones. Then no way in hell. So I'd rather just get ahead. So me sitting in a cone here is not knowing what to do. Not knowing how to either pressure the enemy or disengage. I should be doing one of the two because I'm wasting time. If I want to play the fight, I wait until the enemies get into a critical moment and then kill the attacker, finish the weak player. If I disengage, I should have used my earlier real estate to get over where the keys are and rotate to center zone when I hear shooting by sitting in a cone and watching out, I guess. This guy comes, I box him. This is purely defensive fight. All I do is maintain right hand piece control in the box in front of me. I don't want to do anything. Okay, this guy overextended, was not building, didn't cover his head. I saw an opportunity with a right hand peek. It's actually the reason I'm able to continue on in this game was because I got that kill. That refresh with the ODM gear allows rotation later, and a mythic Havoc pump just allows for ridiculous defensive fighting. So this guy, we can rewind actually. We'll put it on half speed. Okay, he takes my wall. He could have hit me there, but because he didn't know where I would be, he didn't take that shot. I could have died from that shot. So I know it's a tenuous situation at this point. He's threatening to pressure forward right. He goes forward left. That, to me, I was very surprised to hit that shot, actually. But this is how I should approach almost any person who's approaching with full confidence. Just look for the proper pre-fire timing. And so the fact that I had that mythic pump earlier made it so that I don't care about this front wall piece. On his second pickaxe swing, like he even had good timing, but on his second pickaxe swing, he went for the white circle to kill my metal wall on that hit. So it's fairly predictable that the wall will be gone and you can thread in a shotgun shot. And so I should try to do that as often as possible. It would be really cool if all of my fights looked like this. Hold on. Still figuring this out. Yeah. If every single one of my fights, the enemy approaches my wall, or the wall above and in front of me with hubris, and I just thread a shot with superior timing. That would give me a lot of opportunities. Anyways, we can resume fast. Oh, there's actually... I heard one more enemy nearby. We can't resume fast. That would be how I die. So, I noticed, either through awareness from earlier, or through visualized audio earlier in the game, I'm not exactly sure, that there was one more enemy here. And so, I couldn't actually just rotate. At this point, I want to just swing away on ODM gear. But yeah, oh, right there, I saw footsteps. Yeah. So I'm in the cone, footsteps right. I don't know, maybe I missed it again, but maybe right before I go in the cone. Yep, right there. It's kind of hard to see. So it's like... Okay. And you can hear it audio in the right ear as well. He's forward and to the right, maybe down below. I don't know exactly. Maybe he's editory, exploratory. I just get in my cone again. I don't know where he is. Alright, and at this point, the zone's going to be moving pretty slow. And my opponent doesn't seem to be making an aggressive maneuver, so whatever. I'll just get a little bit ahead of zone and be ready for him to push me from behind once I start rotating. So now I'm like 2 boxes ahead of him, which means I can make relevant combat action. Based on the footsteps, I thought he was on high ground, but he's on low ground, which gives me just an advantage for a free shot. Again, this whole fight could have been avoided by an earlier rotation. So I'm gonna slow this down because this is a situation I need to figure out as long as ODM gear is in the game. First cut. Okay. There's slight downtime. Option for a second cut, I should just be aiming at the ground right in front of him. It's complicated that this is ice as well. But I think my second shot was useless. It like... Yeah, look at that. It hit nothing. So that's actually annoying. First shot. Oh no, that was the second shot, just a complete miss. And then I think I could have done a third shot, but I just decided I'm gonna build since I have the health advantage. I get above him. I stand on where his wall is while I take the floor. He pulls out his lightsaber, cuts his own wall, and I have an opportunity to shoot him on the head from the floor piece I took, and from him making the strategic choice he did. Not too much. I don't know how to use the lightsabers at this point, so I'm just gonna leave it on the ground. Argument could be made to explore and practice. I see a rift right here. I want to box up on it as my strategy for the next rotation, but zone changes and I have to do a far northeast rotation instantly. And so I could make the argument, rotate to center zone on this zone, but instead I saw a mountain and I decided to climb the mountain. Play edge zone. I think because everyone is so aggressive and there's a low population at this point in the game, the best strategic maneuver is just... Rotations won't be that complicated, so position in a spot where you either have a supreme advantage, like the top of the map on a mountain, or somewhere where you're invisible center zone. And so I would either be in a bush center zone, which isn't an option when we're on the Arctic portion of the map. Honestly, I should just be sitting in a cone. All of these little pokes and jabs are stupid. I don't know. I'm exploring ODM range. You'll see later on I pressure a guy with an SMG. I'm vulnerable to snipes the entire time I'm doing this. I'm just bored and not playing smart. Right here, even though I'm sort of maintaining a right-hand peek, unless I have a ramp in front of me edited to the right, I'm actually very vulnerable to the entire valley down low of potential snipers. I don't know. Because I have such an ammunition advantage, it's debatable whether or not the past 30 seconds have been good or bad. Arguments can be made that in a more stacked lobby, finding long-range spray opportunity is good for Storm Surge. So by practicing it in this scenario, I can familiarize myself with what opportunities may present themselves in the future. But again, if I'm playing SMG, I'm not going to be looking for that. Okay, we're going to slow this down. Again, I'm aggressive. I guess that whole spray from the top of the mountain, I did keep in mind that I chunked this guy down, used his mats a bit, and because of that, I felt confident to simultaneously rotate to zone and pressure him with the ODM gear. First one hits, second one hits, third one breaks his stuff, fourth one hits his second layer wall. Unfortunate. And so I'm just trying to get into his box. It would have been better for me to stay on the second layer though. Again, It's not necessarily my strong suit finishing kills, so this is good to review. I see he's behind this wall. I take his piece. So there's an opportunity. He edits out up and forward to the left, and I'm just sitting here with no ammo, and my SMG is sitting ducked to a third party, or if he's smart and fast and gets an angle on me. So all in all, because I approached from the bottom up in that scenario, I limited my assault heavily. Because I had such a health advantage, I needed to finish the kill fast, but it would have been better to stay at his level or above instead of below and up, because he was able to get away twice. Okay, so then my ODM is refreshed, and I'm like, okay, well, it worked the first time. But even still, this is a prolonged fight, and we're exposed to third party, and what do I have to win from this fight when I've already used so much of his mats? He hits a good defensive shot. I'm a little bit frustrated at this point at myself, just because I used a lot of resources in that fight. I now no longer have a rotation tool, and I did not finish the kill. So, at the top of the mountain, I thought it was wrong to shoot. And then with my ODM gear, which is my rotation tool, I decided to push and pressure, which was wrong because I lost my ODM gear and had to use heals of my own, as well as mats. It would have been better to just sit on the mountain, rotate quietly, and then save my ODM for a third-party opportunity, either when there's 3 players left or when I'm in a desperate scenario. Right now there's 3 players left, so seek the place of advantage and try to not be in a fight. We can resume normal. Actually, yeah, so I encounter a rock thrown with the power of the Force for the first time here. I still don't fully understand how it works. I don't know, maybe people who are more familiar with it than me can inform in the comment section with how I could either implement the sabers into my practice and the Force elements, or if it's even worth paying attention to at all. Like, look at this. That's kind of absurd. Alright, what can I do to protect that? I had my roof open, my right wall, and my back open. So what I need to do is have a roof, a right wall, and a back wall, first of all. But I don't even know if that would protect me. But how I am sitting is no protection against Sigma in Overwatch. Literally just have to pretend I'm playing versus Sigma when I see someone do that. And then he ODM gears. This is a fine fight, honestly. I'm only protecting the essential spots. And, he's being aggressive with novelty items, so punish the aggression with a pre-fire and premeditated spray. And so, like I said, the enemy here actually executed upon the strategy that I think is the easiest way to win. As soon as I was fighting, he was targeting the winning party. The issue was I didn't lose out much on the trade, and the timing was just slightly off. But I'm actually at the disadvantage strategically by being in that fight when there's 3 players left. So, I'm trying to think. That fight was not really avoidable, because the guy threw rocks at me and swung over on a novelty item to me. So I couldn't really avoid that fight beyond what I did. So anyways, now it's just a 1v1 where the enemy has tempo in the fight. I really want that slurp juice. And another OD. I should have just used my chug splashes, but at the same time, I want to expand and get out a bit. He has my roof, I'm not that worried. Just do neutral cone at it. Again, neutral cone edit, but I missed both of my floors there. I'm actually making mechanical errors. Like, so I'm stressed. He's pressuring from above. I missed my floor on the bottom. My floor goes to my left wall. So I could have fallen there if I didn't notice, but I noticed. Same here. I did the same mechanical error twice. In addition, I missed my right wall there. Lots of errors happening in this 1v1. But even still, he doesn't find an opportunity. I have actually a good amount of minutes. I know where my refresh was, so I can refresh my brick because I used a lot to expand and heal up. And it's actually, I think, there where we have a point of contention. So, made a couple mechanical errors, but at this point I'm healed up, not really that worried. pressures me from above, zone's about to start moving. When I have high mats, I'm not really that worried about someone on top of me. I can full tarp forward to the right. See, that was actually unawareness on my part. I thought I was safe, but I was only safe by a partially built single piece. And that was the cone in the neutral position. I didn't actually know he had the roof and the cone and the right-hand peak premeditated. I react only to take 47 damage or something like that. He takes my wall, neutral edit, and I decide I'll go to the side. Center window edit, exploratory. I don't know where he is or how to hit him from that position, so now I start expanding towards zone. Good mouse movement there. It left me the option to continue the tarp forward or stop there. So I stopped there because he pressures the box behind me. I reestablish my floor, looking for right. Okay, just defending my 2 boxes. Zone's gonna move. I don't really know how to gain a hard advantage unless the enemy overextends. I'm just retaking pieces near him, trying to get him to overextend. He takes a piece here, I do a neutral edit, forward, right, retake. I actually had a mechanical error on that forward, right, retake, but he had a mechanical error on that floor take, so it doesn't matter in this scenario. I end up having a right-hand peek with my defensive cone edit. I take 20 damage from this storm. See, now this is where I don't know if it's a good strategy in 1v1, but I'm just gonna full tarp ahead of zone, and then eventually mantle on top of my box and take a fight, because he's running from the storm. But I don't have a whole lot of practice with this. It's as soon as I'm on wood, I hit a good shotgun shot, but is that right there is the only reason I win this game, because the enemy was like healing in a bad way. He doesn't know how to hold high ground while being protected. Because if so, then that's not a reliable way to win, and I don't know how to win in this situation beyond an enemy either overextending in an aggressive scenario, or making not even a high level play, just not protecting himself on high ground for me to be able to exploit that. Like, there's got to be more to it than that. I think if I know he's lower HP and I'm ahead, before I just mantle up, why don't I try shooting him down and then mantling up? So where could I do that? Right now, that's my thought process. Is there any way I could shoot up because he's... But even then, yeah, I'd have to break 2 layers without him noticing while he's healing, and then he'd fall onto my tarp. And even then, he has the opportunity to die, so... I think the way I played it was the best in this scenario that I could. But I was low on mats. I had the advantage because I was ahead of zone. Get on the same layer as him, hit a good shot, get ahead of him in terms of his movement. Like, for example, the only thing he built was a ramp in front, so it was easier for me to control his movement and finish the game. But another player would either be looking to hit me back harder with his weapon in an exposed scenario, or in an unexposed scenario, the guy would be navigating full mats to a place ahead of zone, and it would be hard for me to hit him. So what I need to do is, in my zone wars practice, consciously get ahead of zone, knock an enemy off balance when I'm ahead of zone, and in the moment he's off balance, I have to actually execute the kill and get ahead of zone where his mats are, replenish after I've gotten 2 to 3 boxes ahead of zone. Hopefully I have white heals to keep me alive at that point. But taking the first piece and the piece they're standing on is not so simple, and I'm not exactly sure how to initiate that. Overall, for early in the season, this was a pretty good game. I didn't get to execute the strategy I wanted. I stayed invisible for most of the game. The snipe I took was a risk. I think it was fine to take that risk. I was only exposed for a small duration. And then besides that, I could have rotated from my base a lot sooner when I knew I was south center zone and edge of south center. Then I can just go along the ice ridge next to the lake You have a lot of natural terrain that you can rotate to center zone with. There's like big brick buildings that I could just hide inside or make my own as a base. Yeah, those things would have been better to do, but all in all, still a good practice game. Alright, well, so for today's review, I wanted to go over the solo ranked battle royale, and we did that fairly well. My drop spot, center zone. I want to get metal as fast as possible. Defensive fights early game when you're prioritizing metal are good because enemies don't generally have that attitude. If they're pushing early, they'll have a surplus of wood and brick. If you end up winning the defensive fight with metal, just let the enemy bring you brick and wood. That's the thought process anyway. So center zone, high metal density, and then smart rotation to center zone whenever I can. Defensive fights. When there's 3 players left, with Guile, attack the advantaged player, finish the advantaged player, move on to the disadvantaged player. Better if it's done in 1 or 2 strokes. Difficult. Need to explore further. Anyways, I think we can cross that out for now. So now, another aspect of my practice, and this is actually just something, it's more of a passion project than anything else. I love StarCraft. I've always loved StarCraft. And so I've always loved playing random too. It's difficult for me to get a concept or a grasp on the game because it's like very quick and complex. But like what I want to be able to do is farm 51% of the map's resources and use that in a more cost efficient manner to get the enemy into a position where he can no longer defend his structures, and inevitably I can slowly chip away at his structures, and if he didn't forfeit, complete the victory condition, which is to destroy all of the buildings. And so, for example, there's different methods of cost efficiently late game maneuvering around the map that, because I've been a student of the game for such a long time, I've been obsessed with the pro scene now for the past 3 years hardcore, but at the same time I watched the pro scene when I was like 14 and as a kid for a long time until I quit StarCraft for League of Legends, and then I stopped watching for a while. But it's been really interesting to notice these trends in the game, how to play cost efficient, how to outmaneuver your opponent with mind games. And so what I want to be able to do with random is just basically farm 51% to 70% of the map and cost efficiently defensively trade, very similar to how I'm trying to play in the Battle Royale as well, only taking smart fights where the enemy has to pay full attention to make progress against me. And I think, like, I've never actually articulated it quite in that fashion, but that's what it is that I'm trying to do. In combat, inevitably, whether it's in Fortnite or StarCraft, and whether it's in slower moving games like chess, I'm sure, you have to, piece by piece, with supreme attention, you have to be mindful of the whole strategy while piece by piece paying attention to everything that the enemy does. And so, like, StarCraft has taught me that extremely well, and same with Fortnite. And so, anyways, long story short, with StarCraft, what I want to do is farm half of the map's resources, roughly speaking, and then outtrade my opponent to a point where I can slowly chip him down, and he will either forfeit or I will achieve the win condition, which is to destroy the buildings. Now, I've tried a number of different ways, and my rank since I started exploring StarCraft has fluctuated from like diamond to gold to where I'm in team games, sometimes low as bronze to silver, etc. And I'm exploring all along the different types of players to play against. After being a student of the game, I found various compositions to be extremely cost efficient. I mean, whether it's in StarCraft 1 or StarCraft 2, there's key units for every race that make it so that you have a strong advantage over the enemy positionally. And those obvious examples would be like for Terran in StarCraft 1 and in StarCraft 2, the siege tank is the essential backbone anti-ground unit. Where you place your siege tanks matter, when you place your siege tanks matter, and how. And the same can be said for Protoss with High Templars, or a Zerg with Defilers, or Vipers, the counterpart in StarCraft 2. And so what I'm trying to do is use all of those mechanics to force the enemy to overextend while I mine out the map and then make my winning maneuver. I've learned that there are ways to establish a forward position that make it so that the enemy has to pay attention to you, and I'm not able to execute it well, but random gives you that advantage in timing. because the enemy chooses a particular race and then has preconceived notions as to what to do against each scenario, whether they're Terran, Protoss, or Zerg, or random even. But the most ambiguous scenario as a StarCraft player is when you play versus a random player. You don't know if they're going to do some form of economic cheese as Terran, or Protoss, or Zerg, or whether they're going to do some early aggression, or whether they're going to do some middle of the road build. And so what I'm going to be trying to do is, as random, using the element of surprise to match my opponent on bases and try and beat him by one base, roughly speaking, while simultaneously establishing a forward position to make it so that he has to pay attention to me, and no matter what, I'm at a cost-efficient advantage. So what I'll be going over next is 3 games where I'm playing random, and this is in the Platinum Division, so neither me nor the opponent really know what we're doing. We're both exploring. But I try to execute these strategies. So for Terran, what I'm trying to do is proxy Reaper, basically 1 Reaper as fast as I can, and that's just to scout and harass, get an analysis. That early pressure, sometimes you can get 2 workers, 3 workers, and keep your Reaper alive at the same time as getting a lot of information. And then I haven't tried this yet, but I want to build immediately after my Reaper 1 Marine and a bunker at that location, and then proxy a factory with 2 siege tanks, as well as 1 starport in the proxy location. And then at my main base, if the enemy has some form of counterattack, I'll be able to scout it out with my Reaper, and I will already have built 2 supply depots and an engineering bay, meaning I could make a planetary fortress, which would defend probably 90% of anything that the enemy could throw at me from the ground, as well as the engineering bay gives me the opportunity to strategically build missile turrets, which would shut down any 1 base air cheese. And so it's like, I really like that concept, but executing it is extremely difficult. And so the first thing we're going to do is look at how I executed it, what I could have done wrong, what I could have done right, and basically how my opponent handled it. So it's a 10-minute game. I'm really trying to have the opportunity to play a 3-hour game where it's 50-50 mined out resources, long game, both players are playing in that situation. But even in Fortnite, like I was saying earlier, with that ability to pre-fire on a hubristic, aggressive opponent, I feel like in strategy games like StarCraft, you need to be able to greed check or skill check your opponent multiple times throughout the game. And I've learned that by watching players like Maru, who we're going to watch later. I believe it. I think it was 2018. You can fact check me if I'm wrong, but he won 3 seasons of GSL, which is like the global StarCraft championship in Korea, in a row. And a majority of the time, he would do these skill check strategies where he builds like 2 proxy barracks on the base, and just through pure timing and rhythm and ability to use the units properly, he can skill check and force. Honestly, in the general public, 99 out of 100 StarCraft players, Maru can beat with a proxy 2 racks, even if you knew it was coming. And so it's like, that's kind of wild to think about, that those sorts of skill checks exist in StarCraft. And so that's why in Fortnite, I'm trying to be aware that players like Maru exist. And Fortnite's early in its development. What are those sorts of skill checks? And to me, it's like, I'm thinking about the pre-fire in that scenario. It's not like something you can reliably bring out every single fight. But if you have superior timing and knowledge, then it's something that you can use to quickly beat down the enemy. But yeah, anyways, we'll go double speed at the beginning. I send out an SCV extremely early. And this is the intention to get the Proxy Reaper. What I want to do is ideally locate this somewhere around the enemy's 3rd base or natural ramp, because I'm going to be trying to set up a slow siege on the natural base. While I take 2 bases, he's on 1 base. That's a huge economic advantage. If I can't leverage that to a win, then I can take my 3rd base with supreme advantage when he cost inefficiently breaks from 1 base to 2. Anyways, long story short, I think I should build my barracks, my bunker, and my proxy factory and proxy starport at the enemy's 3rd base. The Reaper, it's a good position for anyways, because he can just jump up to the enemy's base. And at this point, the enemy has no knowledge that I'm Terran. So the proxy Reaper, it shouldn't have any planned defense. So now he knows I'm Terran. He could plan for a defense. He doesn't lose that drone. I get my gas. See, I don't know about gas timing and stuff like that. Whatever, I'll learn through experience. Yeah, so I have my barracks. I try to build a bunker in a greedy position. What I'm talking about is I want to just build the most, like, I want to build the bunker right next to the barracks so that I can build a factory. And I didn't think about that until after I had already played this game. So like right here, he has the opportunity to chase down my SCV, which the bunker would already be almost done, and I would have a Reaper out on the map that could kill those two lings easy, could keep pressuring. Like, so I may have lost the bunker even so, but there's no way this bunker will get off. So, again, by trying to be greedy and shut down his second base instantly, I lose my SCV, so I cannot proxy a factory. I lose my ability to build a bunker. I lose my ability to proxy a starport. So I just kind of forfeit the strategy and build a command center. Whatever, I'll be behind on my second base. But again, I'm not exactly sure how I'm able to transition this to an early win. I didn't execute upon my desired one base contain, slow contain actually, because they don't necessarily see it coming. A single Reaper, they might react to, they might overreact to, and then a single siege tank next to a bunker is going to be hard to break, and they'd have to push it with early units. But if they do that, then they're trading really bad, so they're not going to push it, and then I can just slowly creep up while they think that they're not under that much pressure. And what I want to do, when I have that proxy factory, I want to have a factory at home to build a cyclone. And with that cyclone, eventually when I have 2 siege tanks, I'll have 2 cyclones, and I'll start getting high sec transmitters, or whatever the cyclone upgrade is called. I don't know. I'll have to continue to explore with Terran. What I ended up doing here was just trying to safely expand to 2 bases and forfeiting the contained strategy. But I have an extremely well positioned. I was able to go orbital with the scout. I knew I wasn't under any early pressure, so I didn't have to go planetary. So I was able to be a little bit economically greedy and get double orbital instead of having to build extra command centers later for my orbitals. Yeah, I'm just gonna focus on saturation, defending my second base. Those bunkers, it doesn't matter that I have 1 unit in it. Good luck breaking it with lings. And then I have cyclones out. It doesn't matter that I lost a couple SCVs. I traded fairly well, especially because I have orbitals. I can drop mules. I'm gonna saturate my gas heavily. Again, I wouldn't do this if I had to build planetaries under the case of cheese, but because I have orbitals, it's easy to saturate gas early. Now I'm getting 2 cyclones. And I want to try building Banshees instead of Liberators for my anti-ground, because they can maneuver with my Vikings. So I want 1 group of Cyclones and Ravens, 1 group of Vikings with like 1 to 6 Banshees, depending upon the macro status of the game. The Vikings and the Banshees will secure vision and positioning for my siege tanks, whereas the Cyclones and the Ravens will shut down enemy pushes with disable, armor shred, and cost-efficient distance trading. It's hard to do because macro in this game is fucking hard, as well as micro in this game is fucking hard. And so I don't know at this point if he's going to go Mutalisk, so I have some turrets strategically positioned, as well as those Widow Mines if the enemy's clumped up with his mutas. And TVZ, it's an extremely cost-efficient way to kill a clump of mutas. I see Ravagers here. Siege tanks are good, but the issue is 3 Ravagers can one-shot a siege tank with Bile. So I need to have multiple siege tanks, you can't just have 1. At this point, I'm just trying to use, like I said, Cyclones in the intermediate space to then get cost-efficient trades with my hard-hitting units. Okay, so because I already have orbitals, I'm not going to make these orbitals. I'm going to try and expand to my 3rd. I need to have more siege tanks because he showed Ravagers and early pressure. This base, because I made 2, honestly, I'm fine throwing it away as long as I get cost-efficient trades. If the planetary ends up getting off, it's huge. Again, just play the intermediate space with the Cyclones. And so in this scenario, I wasn't able to execute upon my initial strategy, so then my backup strategy of getting siege tanks, having 1 group with Cyclones and Ravens, 1 group with Vikings, although this scenario I didn't go Vikings Banshees. I think even like 4 to 8 Vikings with 1 Banshee is probably an extremely lethal scout for siege tanks if you also simultaneously have Cyclones and Ravens. I used to like Thor's. I think 1 Thor is really good. Actually, in the series that we're going to show later with Maru, he used 1 Thor in a way that, to my Cyclone Raven group, I want to add just 1 single Thor on long distance cannon mode, because Thors, when you have too many, they stack up, and it's harder to get value out of that slow-moving, clunky army. Whereas if you only have one and he's kind of lagging behind, he's only going to get extremely good trades at this guy. So I find that to be fascinating, and Maru did that. And, like, it's the first time I've seen him include just a single Thor, and he kept it alive for almost the entire duration of the game. I'm telling you, we're not going to review the whole series today. We're only going to review the winning sequence. But researching Maru's StarCraft play and watching his entire 2023 GSL Season 1 run is worthwhile. You just straight up learn how to win and lose in a calm fashion with humility from someone who's seasoned in the domain. Like, he's been competing since GSL Season 1, and that was, I don't know for certain, I think it's 2011. And so that's a long time to be competing. But in the grand finals, he plays versus Cure. Cure used to be his teammate for an extended period of time. They were on generic Green Wings for years and practice partners together. And both of them, after generic Green Wings split apart, did individual approaches. They had various sponsorships, but it kind of went back to from living in a team environment where they were practice partners to now they're kind of just their own pro gamer entities in that sphere. And so it's been interesting to watch both of their careers since generic Green Wings fell apart. And Cure is one of the only players who can actually bring a substantial fight to Maru. And so it was great to see them both in the finals. And I'm a Maru fan, so it was great to see Maru overcome Kira in the finals. But Kira is a dangerous player, and so I actually think that this grand finals everyone should watch. But Maru's gameplay in particular is something that I think that everybody could learn from. He's patient, calm, wins with dignity, loses with dignity. I don't think I've ever seen him really rage, just like smile and laugh when he's losing from time to time. And to me, that's a sign of a good player more than anything else. But anyways, now I'm going to move to my Protoss game. And Protoss, I want to keep the same strategic principles in mind regardless of what race I'm playing, regardless of what map I'm playing. I want to match the opponent economically, roughly speaking, and then out-trade him. And so Protoss, they have static defense that's unbelievably strong. I'm just going to be going with an early cannon rush, but I'm going to send 2 probes out. The first probe is to intentionally fail a cannon rush, get the enemy overconfident. The second probe is to set up a forward base with 2 gateways for stalkers, as well as cannon contain, so that he is allowed 2 bases, but I'm allowed 3 bases. And what I do is I proxy 1 starport or stargate, 2 gateways, and I do a cannon contain, and all the buildings are spread apart so that if they have something like a siege tank, it'll take the maximum amount of time, or Ravagers, or Tempests, it'll take the maximum amount of time for them to destroy this contain. I keep that in mind. Then I have Stalkers with Blink, which I rush into. If you only have 2 gateways, it's reasonable. On 1 base, if the enemy's on 1 base as well, or on 2 base, you can do it even better. And then you get 1 Stargate. I want to get 2 Void Rays out of that Stargate, because Void Rays and Stalkers with shield batteries and cannons is basically broken. And then I want to rush up to 6, maybe 8 Tempests for long-range poke. And as long as I can maintain that contain and just trade efficiently as they slowly destroy the static defense, I'll be able to expand comfortably, get static defense in my base, as well as build up upgrades and the potential for a late-game strong army once I'm on 3 bases or 4 bases. I'll already have +2 shield, I'll have +1/1 on air weapons, and then I can make a good transition into carriers with either High Templars with Storm, depending on the high composition, or carriers Archons with that foundation of Stalkers and Tempests. I think that that would be a great way to play. You've seen a lot of players over the years who do that proxy Tempest play, but they do it with the intent to end the game, not the intent to delay the game. And that's what I want to try to do, is do it with the intent to delay the game with the possibility of ending the game in one of those skill check fashions that I mentioned earlier. And so it's really inspiring. You can watch players who are dedicated Protoss, so they don't have the element of surprise against the enemy. They can straight up just proxy star ports on the map, get shield batteries up, and kill the enemy with Tempest slowly. So I find that to be inspiring as well. But I don't want to do it in an all-in fashion, even though that is probably the best way to win that particular game. I want to learn to explore, to delay the enemy, and delay the enemy's progression, even if he eventually breaks that initial position, I will already have positioned myself so that I'm on 3 base when he's on 2 base. And yeah, so anyways, we can watch what ends up happening in this game. So I send out an early probe. I'm still trying to figure out the proper chrono use timing for my preference and the proper sending probe out timing. But it's like I said, I want to send 2 probes. One probe to intentionally scare and fail a cannon rush, maybe gas steal too. Like, I see that he's building, cannon rushing me, actually. Or building a forge fast expand. It's not necessarily that he's going to cannon rush. But my second probe, instead of going out to his base, because my first probe was undetected, I just put my second probe on his probe. Right now I have 2 cannons strategically positioned, one to destroy the forge and the second one to progress to his main base. I reacted slow, but by building the gateway, I'll be able to have vision on the high ground for my low ground cannon. I can see that he's doing the same sort of thing to me. This game is not even going to progress to the sort of contain that I was describing and that I desire to do. At this point, it's like I don't exactly know what to do. I don't want to sacrifice my economy. He already has cannons built. But I have to kill this first one on high ground. So I'm fine with how I defended this. I don't think he had the highest level cannon rush. I don't think I had the highest level execution. But I had good enough execution to break this. So base is under attack. It takes me time to react. It's just my gateway. And so because I proxied that gateway, I might as well use the advantage that I have with it being alive for the short duration. I'll get my cybernetics core out and I'll go early Stargate. It's a good way to salvage it on the fly. I don't know how many cannons to invest in this situation. I want to be able to expand as well as be able to afford Void Rays. And I have to rebuild 2 gateways. So it's a lot to afford on one base. And I have to build shield batteries now that my cybernetics is done. So 1 cannon was enough to clear the high ground, and because he didn't invest anymore, I don't actually have to do much. I can just expand on location. This is actually kind of funny. My deactivated cannon, I tried to reactivate. So at this point, even though it's delayed, gonna be trying to act upon similar principles to what I described prior to the game, which is set up a contain that allows me to be either a 2 base on 1 or a 3 base on 2. I'm comfortable with either of those scenarios. I'm comfortable dedicating resources and willing to lose those resources as long as I'm able to maintain an economic advantage at home. So now I actually spotted his scouting probe. I'm just going to use my Void Ray to get guaranteed value. I'm already getting guaranteed value. I don't need to take any risks beyond just maintain the contain, use my Void Rays and shield batteries. Waited to attack together. You can overpower damage-wise. Now I start reinforcing the defenses at my nat. I don't know what he's going to do at this point. I'm preparing for anything while harassing the front. What he ends up doing is an air tech as well, but he goes Oracle, and because I have batteries and cannons in position, he just loses. It was basically his tech choice in a one base scenario. Led him to lose. Ended up playing fine in that scenario. I would have liked to execute the contain in the way that I described. We'll see in the future if I can do that. And yeah, so far we're doing a good job in today's review. We've gone over the solo ranked battle royale. We've gone over Z. Oh no, we haven't gone over Zerg yet. That's what remains. We've gone over Terran, so we can cross that out. We've gone over Protoss. We can cross that out. The strategy remains the same regardless of race. And so for Zerg, it's a bit more of an economic cheese and a risk, and I'm willing to sacrifice my natural base because a lot of people pressure Zerg's early natural anyways for a hidden base where I invest economically initially into the hidden base. That's on their side of the map, so I'm draining resources, so I even am affording myself, in the event of a 3-hour game, the opportunity to be slightly more cost inefficient because I'm draining his side of the map of resources. Like, say for example, there's 16 bases on a map, and I'm able to farm like, just one more base than he is, that affords me a huge bank's worth of resources to just trade cost inefficiently, make maneuvers, take risks that I otherwise wouldn't have. And so in this scenario, I think it's a base with a gold base, in which case it's even better. If the enemy overcommits to your gold base and you have a spawning pool on time, there's actually a high probability if you're just spamming queens and static defense, you'll be able to hold that and then eventually saturate your gold. The beauty about a risk like this is it's hard to scout, and if it goes unscouted, you gain such a large economic advantage. And so this is what I'm talking about by random. You are normally aware of something like this if you're playing versus a Zerg, early 2 base, early 3 base before pool, but very rarely are you gonna encounter a random who does this strategy. So most players will not be prepared to scout a gold base for a proxy hatchery. And in the event that they do, I'm timing my pool in such a way that I should be able to have 2 spine crawlers and 1 queen by the time a marine push would come, the Zerglings would come. The main threat would be Ravagers and or Protoss Air would be annoying. Queens are really good versus that. You just get a couple Spore Crawlers too. Now I'm telling you, if you can establish your hidden base early on with static defense, it is a cost-inefficient uphill battle for the enemy to break that position, in which case, defend it, eventually saturate it, exploit that economic advantage, and then win the game through attrition. That's what I want to do. So I'm saturating my main base to full. I want to be mindful of my nat. And this is where, this is kind of my bluff. This is kind of the difference between the traditional Zerg players that you'd encounter on the ladder. Most people will invest heavily in lings and queens and stuff to defend their natural and their third base that's close to them. But because I'm hiding a base, I'm actually feigning ignorance and kind of naivete. I don't know if it'll work at high levels. But most player, like he just barely scouted right now, he thinks that I'm just slow to take my natural. He doesn't know that I've already taken my natural somewhere else and that my pool is slightly late as a consequence. And so, like, even right now, just having the drone patrolling, that's enough to most enemies. If they see that, they'll commit like an engineering bay, they'll attack your drone, they'll build a pylon, something like that, to stop the hatchery. And then, as my 2 bases are just going through their natural progression of getting queens and workers, I'll comfortably spend the resources on that 3rd base. And I want to inject at my hidden base. Like, right now it's undetected, so I want to get that going as much as possible. We can speed it up. So, this is a crucial moment. So, at this point, I need to, regardless of my knowledge of the enemy, which is none, he now knows my entire strategy. So, at this point, I need to, with the drones I have, build static defense, start building slow lings and queens, just long enough to hold back his first push, scout him out, make sure that he's on 2 bases, and then I need to prepare for his larger push, which I'll deal with Ravagers and queens. But this moment, he's a good player to have found this base this early. It's a slow progression of the main base, while Spinecrawler, Queen, not too heavy commitment to defense. Now I have a 2nd Queen, building a 3rd. 1 to expand creep. Now that I know there's a fight, I need to get high ground vision immediately. And I built a bunch of Zerglings. The funny thing is, I am not building static D instantly. I actually think it would have been better to build static D instantly. But in this scenario, because I sent that Zergling to scout, I didn't have to, and I have a huge economic boost because I didn't end up having to build static D instantly. So scouting with a Ling early is something I should do anyway. Basically, as soon as my pool is done, just make a pair of 2. Get 1 sitting on the enemy 3rd base, get 1 to try and run bay into the main base. It's a 50 mineral investment for free scouting. But now, at this point, I knew he scouted. My static D is either just in time or late, depending upon perspective and player skill. His units showed up when my buildings were just building, so I would argue late. I'm just keeping the base mildly saturated, trying to shut down any weak points with static D. Now I went into 6. I'm only ever going to build 6 Ravagers, I think. I think that's enough to one-shot a battlecruiser. I don't know for sure. But, like, Dark, he's another StarCraft player who's super inspiring. He does this thing with queens where he'll neural parasite an enemy ship, like a carrier, mothership, or battlecruiser. or even just with a fungal from an infester, and then he'll time Ravager Bile on top of that in just crisp away. So at this point, I have two armies. I have my Zerglings with speed. My Zerglings with speed will defend my main base and my natural base that's far away from my proxy. And then my proxy base, I want 6 Ravagers, static defense, and Queens, and a slow push on their Nat. Like, I can be cost inefficient here because I can afford Infinity Zerglings, as well as slow push with my Ravagers and static defense while I spread creep to their Nat. And that's the whole strategy, basically. So I have one control group with my Zerglings that are either committing to the fight at the front if the enemy is full defense, or if I need to defend, I'll move with my Zerglings to defend, while then slow siege with Ravagers and Queens, which is micro-intensive. It is hard to have on one control group Queens and Ravagers and use them fluently. I'm not used to using tab to transition fluidly between Bile usage and Transfuse usage, so that will come with lots of practice as well. But yeah, so now I start to siege the front. A Banshee comes out, but good thing I have Queens on creep and I have static D already coming. This is a good strategy for him as a general defense, but he's not expecting creep on his front porch with detection in the form of static defense. So even though he went something that is usually a hard counter to early Zerg aggression, in this scenario, it does not pay off for him. I get a transfuse on their wounded Ravager. This Ravager ends up completing. I see I'm under assault, so then I move my static D to high ground. And now I have detection. I have such a huge economic advantage. At this point, all I do is flood Zerglings on 3 base. Eventually, Eventually what I want to do is pool Zerglings, tech up to Lair, while I'm getting Hydroden and while I'm getting Infestor Pit. I want to get Nidus Worm and use all of my Zerglings in a Nidus at the back of their base while I attack at the front with Queens and Ravagers. I've seen Dark do that so many times, and it's insane how strong it is. But yeah, anyways, that's a little bit of my thoughts on the StarCraft 2 strategic overview using random. It's more of a passion project than anything else, but I think it's actually integrally related. There were concepts like Maru's Proxy 2 racks and skill checks that I related between these two concepts already. And now I want to go over kind of more of an eclectic game. It's a game I really like. It's a solo single-player game. It's iterative survival, and it's really rhythmic, movement-based. Aim is important, but basically you're on an island. There's environment factors. The island shrinks over time, and your goal is to survive on that island as long as possible. And then in addition to that, there are enemies on that island that spawn. Early game is easier than later in the game. And so that's what I mean by iterative survival. Death is inevitable, but it's your goal to just try and work your hardest to survive on that map through proper movement, proper rhythm, and timing. The things that I want to highlight in Devil Daggers in particular are the shotgun version of shooting. It has a nuanced timing. It's like a tap, 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 and it's actually hard to practice. And so that's something that I'll be actively working on, and I can show. And then in addition to that, when you're not doing the shotgun timing of shots, it's a continuous stream, and I'll be doing a run of practice with that. And so I'm just going to review this Devil Daggers run on double speed, and if I need to slow it down and review massive mechanical errors, I will. But all in all, I think that this is a game that I should be playing more often, and I need to work on my shotgun timing as well as my stream timing to be able to progress. Right now, I'm actually fairly limited in my progress. I've kind of, like, when I first got the game, climbed a lot, but I've really actually plateaued and started to go down. And so I think I need to address this, so that's part of why I am putting it in this review, so that instead of the downward decline, I can address it with any of these. Linear progressions would be great. And now progress is never really linear, so I imagine it'll be something like that. Anyways, yeah, let's get into it. 4 minutes, 52 seconds. I spent 2 lives. This is the shotgun timing I'm talking about. Let's watch it on normal speed. I'm able to retain it at the beginning, no problem. But even then, like, so the pillars on the map rotate counterclockwise. So you want to rotate clockwise to be able to access the weak point on the spawning pillars, which are those gems. These gems you cannot collect when you're moving. So you have to take breaks in your shots, and that's why it's incredibly efficient, like important to be efficient with your shots and your movement. Like bunny hopping is a factor, retaining fast movement is a factor. This game is a lot of things at once that it's better to not focus on the complexity. It's better to just breathe, stay calm, and hit the target that's in front of you. If you want some heuristic, and this is what I try to apply, is based upon the motion of the pillars being counterclockwise, it is advantageous to move clockwise yourself. That's the only thing that's in my mind beyond trying to use my shotgun timing only. Yeah, once the game starts to pick up a bit more, you can really start to see my shotgun timing. I step on myself, lose my balance. Yeah, this game's really peaceful. It doesn't seem peaceful based on the aesthetic, but the more you play it, it's a meditation in the form of first-person shooter iterative survival. Funny thing is, meditation means movement to the center. And since this is an island that is continually shrinking to an inevitable center point of doom, meditation is correct terminology. I'll turn it down a little bit. I don't know how loud it is for you guys. So here, first mechanical error that I'm going to highlight. The first centipede, I should be able to kill it completely with one stroke. I missed two gems. A gem on the early portion and then a gem on the later portion. So that already sets me behind. I'm like, can I address it while moving backwards? No, I cannot. So because I was set behind and overwhelmed with complexity, I ended up just not being able to retain shotgun timing while proper movement and awareness of the enemy. And so now I'm gonna try a run with continuous stream rather than shotgun timing. This one I actually don't mind speeding up because the timing is less important, more the placement and the rhythm. But the way that this gun works is very similar to the arcane gun in Quake, where you send a projectile, it takes a while to hit the destination. So you basically always have to lead your opponent. So far, movement's been pretty clean, and the sprays have been pretty clean. Yeah, I am much better at stream than I am shotgun timing, so I'm less interested in a harder view. That actually was a funny death, in a way, and I should be able to avoid it because I know where the centipede is when it happens. But in that time, I was trying to maintain vertical momentum while moving backwards, and it ended up punishing me, actually. I'll slow it down, and you can see what I'm talking about. So I see, based on this animation right here, where the centipede is spawning. So I also know where it's going. Turning backwards right here and shooting the spider is just a mistake. What I should have done is hard cut to the center, kill the spider, and then kill the centipede on its alternate up. I don't know the right terminology, I forgot, but on a wave when it starts to go up again. Yes. Anyways, for the last video, I think that's fine. I gotta work on my shotgun timing. I gotta work on my awareness. I gotta play the game more because I'm stagnating. Anyways, Maru's 6th GSL championship winning move. I don't actually have a whole lot of analysis for this beyond just I'm a big Maru fan, and it was a pretty monumental moment for him to be able to win his 6th championship. In addition to that, GSL, it's one of my favorite forms of entertainment, I guess, is how you'd classify it. But for years, I've just been able to have the opportunity to watch esports at the highest level and watch these players who are strategic masterminds in a game that typically people would consider dead. When the game is not dead at all, it has such depths, and I actually think the RTS genre has a good future. So I'm trying to be aware of multiple genres and develop skills. Mm, that are transjective rather than uniform. Like, I think you can get to an extremely high level by focusing on only one thing. But if you focus on only one thing, there are costs as well. And anyways, I think that Maru, the fact that he's been so focused on Terran and completely changed the game and changed the race, this is just worth watching and enjoying. So I'll watch the final moments of the best of 7 versus Kier, where he ends up winning 4-2. And this game was super turbulent, back and forth. It was like edge of my seat, didn't know exactly who was going to win. Maru introduced battlecruisers earlier into the series, which then Kier went battlecruisers in this game, but Maru was able to deal with the multi-pronged pressure of the battlecruisers extremely well with like Raven disables and stuff like that. And I'm not high enough level StarCraft to be able to properly break the game down, but I just know for a fact that I really enjoyed watching this, and it is extremely high level play. So, yeah, like you can see even right now, the army supply, it's very close, workers really close, economy really close. But Maru basically outmaneuvers and uses tech here. He disables the enemy siege tank and takes this basically 9 o'clock base, takes it out completely while he's able to, with less of an investment, defend his bases. So that was a good initial movement. I'm going to speed it up just a little bit because that first movement is a setup for a later, bigger push. And this is what I mean. Like, Kier, he reacted to Maru in a really good way by going battlecruisers after Maru won with battlecruisers. But Maru also reacted to Kier's transition great. So Kier ended up taking this 3 o'clock base, and Maru's shutting it down with minimal units. Like, literally, he sent a group of like 5 Marines in a siege tank, and he was able to shut that down while keeping the main clump of his army centralized, watching Kier's army. And this is where the real strategic swing starts. As Kier pressures with his battlecruisers, Maru has a more lethal army. His Raven stack is just insane. It doesn't matter that Kier has that many siege tanks when your Ravens can go in and disable. And at the same time, Maru's shutting this base down for free, the actual 9 o'clock base. So yeah, those battlecruisers, by being exposed on the map for that long, Maru was able to defend it with just a few Ravens. Well, a lot of Ravens, I guess, and just a small flock of Vikings because of his use of the disable. He stacks disable there to prevent the battlecruisers from getting out. At the same time, Kier does a good counter-offensive onto Maru's siege tank position. So, like, this is what I'm talking about. It's an insane back and forth. And Kier even gets both of those out. Like, this series was back and forth the entire time. So even though Maru had a good defense there, good unit positioning, good reaction, Kier used that opportunity when his battlecruisers were disabled to take out Maru's hard siege tank strategic position with disable. There's like so many things going on at once. And then we watch Maru take the position that he had formerly destroyed. Kier's moving up in a tit-for-tat response, deems it unacceptable. Maru evacuates the base. That siege tank takes 1 hit. That's actually insane that the siege tank didn't take the second hit and that a Marine tanked it for him. Holy cow. If that tank gets the second shot, it could have got a third shot and killed that tank altogether. It's not really that relevant, but those little micro events just add so much complexity to this game. And then this is what I'm talking about. Maru just commits all at once. Only 1 siege tank left, not disabled. And then he gets an armor shred on the enemy sky fleet while he has stimmed Marines just stomp the position. All of this in a 3-2 best of 7 scenario where Kier is actually playing amazing at the same time. These guys are former teammates. The mind games are insane. The strategy is insane. The skill level is insane. So, yeah, I don't know. If you're not a StarCraft fan and you don't watch a whole lot of series, this is a modern, up-to-date, high-level series. Even right here, Kier's in an extremely fortified position. He has an air fleet, he has 2 siege tanks, and a group of Marines for when the air fleet overextends. But Maru can just stomp this entrenched position through usage of the Raven. usage of the Marines and excellent micro, and the usage of the disable from the Ravens in particular. You can disable every major unit. It's actually a lot harder than you would think to hit an armor shred like that, and 3 disables precisely. Ravens show up in time to stack a second disable, I think. Either way, the Vikings are on hot pursuit. This game is completely over. Takes a minute for Kier to process the loss. Actually, no, he isn't processing the loss. He's seeing if he can still fight on. Those auxiliary battlecruisers, you gotta give him credit for the fighting spirit. Mara just will end up sending back some of his Ravens and Marines. Disable is such a strong spell. Eventually it's cleaned up. Kier gives the respect. That's one thing I like about StarCraft players in general, is there's respect for the competition and respect for the opposition. And just calm. Even though he just played an intense series. Yeah, I have a lot of respect. Anyways, this concludes today's review. Thank you guys for your time and attention. I think I'm going to be trying to do this more often, as I think it serves multiple purposes. Helps me to consciously, in a framed way, reflect and improve upon things that I've done in the past, as well as things that I'm curious about. And I mean, so thank you for watching, if you managed to watch this whole thing, and yeah, in comments and questions I'll try to address in the next episode.